What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I'm here to do my deep dive for the Dolphins' current roster of wide receivers. And then tomorrow I will be doing my free agency video on wide receivers. So we are moving through it. We have now completed the offensive line. We have now done running backs, both when it comes to the deep dives of the current players as well as the free agent targets, potential free agent targets. So make sure you go and check those videos out if you haven't. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into today's video, which is our deep dive into the Dolphins' current wide receiver room. So let's take a look. And as usual, like I said, I will always give you my current position rankings by need at the beginning of the videos, just as a reminder. So offensive line is number one, with tackles taking priority over center and no guards needed in my opinion. Running back, wide receiver, linebacker being a true middle, defensive line with edge slightly over tackle, cornerback, tight end, safety, quarterback being backup, and then specialist being punter. So those are my areas of need for the Miami Dolphins going into free agency and the draft. Now, let's take a look at who we currently have on the roster at wide receiver. And so let me just start off by saying this, that obviously I've been talking about how I think we should take a wide receiver in this draft. I would like to see one in the first few rounds. In the first 3 rounds, it just depends on how the board falls. But, you know, the way I've seen most of the mock drafts and everything play out, it looks like, you know, most of the top wide receiver talent will probably be gone. And so that's why for me, as it stands right now, my dream scenario, and it also looks like it's going to be a pretty deep wide receiver draft, though. It looks like that's a position where, you know, you can get solid talent in the second or third round. So depending on how the board falls, you know, will determine it. But again, for me as of right now, with the way things look like they're shaping up, my ideal dream scenario would actually be Nakobe Dean in the first round, and then you get your wide receiver in round 3 after getting your running back in round 2. But again, we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see what they do in free agency, see if they pick up anybody. We'll be taking a look at the potential free agent targets at wide receiver tomorrow. And there are some guys on the roster too, like this first guy we're going to talk about, Matt Collins. He's a guy that I would like to see them keep in the room for this upcoming season. He's going into his 6th year as an unrestricted free agent at 29. Not very expensive. Current APY of $1,127,500. Here's his measurables, combine stats. Draft status, he was a 4th round pick. 118 overall in 2017, 5 years in. Started off with the Eagles from 17 to 18. Spent a little time with the Eagles in 19 before coming over to us, and then 2020 to present with us ever since then. He's got 65 career games, 8 started, 1,324 snaps, 264.8 snaps per year. I just think he's been a solid, dependable guy, and I think that they can get the most out of him with this coaching staff. So with this offensive coaching staff. And so, you know, especially over the past couple years with what we've seen, not having guys that are reliable, being able to stay on the field, I think that's super useful. And he's produced, you know, relatively well for us when he has been on the field. And he does seem to have some chemistry with Tua. So I would keep him around personally. He's got 98 targets receiving, 19.6 per year, 56 receptions, 11.2 per year, 57.1 catch percentage, 750 yards, 150 per year, 11.5 per game, 13.39 average with 6 touchdowns, 1.2 per year, and 7 20-plus yarders. No rushing stats for him. 2021, he's got 17 games, 3 started, 340 snaps, 28 targets, 14 receptions, 50% completion percentage, 223 yards, 13.1 yards per game, 15.93 average, 4 touchdowns, and 4 20-plus yarders. He also is a Super Bowl champion, as it turns out, 52 in 2017. So, interesting stuff there. But anyway, as for his grades, you got 340 snaps in 2021, 58.1 overall, 57.1 receiving, 286 snaps in 2020, 58.2 overall, 54.9 receiving. Obviously, when I say keep him around, and look, I mean, obviously hasn't graded out very well, but look, he's not going to be, a number 1 guy, number 2 guy, or really even probably a number 3, but I like him as a number 3 to number 5 guy on this roster, honestly, especially because there's not really much better than him. Obviously, Jalen Waddle's going to be your top guy. Then if you figure maybe you do get, one free agent wide receiver, and then you get like a 3rd round pick wide receiver this year, then your room starts to kind of shape up, especially because we haven't got to him yet. But I do think that, they'll probably keep this next guy that's on the list, but I do think Parker's going to end up staying. But we'll get to that in a minute. So 2019, 411 snaps, 49.5 overall, 50.2 receiving. Didn't have any snaps in 2018, so no grades. 287 in 2017, 63.1 overall, 61.7 receiving. Now, Lynn Bowden Jr., he's interesting. I do think that he could end up sticking around. There's been a lot of potential with this guy, but Raiders didn't see fit to keep him. Obviously, he was on injured reserve for us this past year, so he hasn't really had much of an opportunity yet. But there's, and the coaching staff has changed, so maybe this coaching staff does or doesn't, view his potential as high as the last coaching staff, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Although he is, he is young, he is 24, he's only going into his 3rd year, he is an unrestricted free agent, which is interesting though, because I thought you couldn't be, anyway, whatever. By the way, a lot of this is, all of this information comes from like either overthecap.com or Pro Football Focus, Pro Football Reference. Most of my stuff has come from there, from those, sites and those information. So with a couple other sites as well. So this is all just the information that I found. So it is what it is. If it's wrong, I'm sorry. Anyway, Combine, but he's interesting. We'll see if he sticks around. I think he does have a chance, especially because of his versatility, his ability to catch out of the backfield. So, and, Mike McDaniel could have a, could have a good time finding a role for him, I guess. But anyway, so, if you keep, let's say you go into this year with, Matt Collins, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Lynn Bowden, and whichever receiver you take in this upcoming draft, and then maybe a free agent guy, if you can get like a Chris Godwin or something like that. We'll talk about free agents tomorrow. Then you could probably have a decent wide receiver room going into this upcoming season. Certainly better than what you had last season. Anyway, let's keep moving through this. Draft status, round 3, 80 overall, 2020. Got 2 years in the league. Like I said, started with Vegas. Obviously, we traded for him. He's been with us ever since. 10 career games, 4 started, 336 snaps, 168 per year, 37 targets, 18.5 per year, 28 receptions, 14 per year, 75.7 catch percentage, 211 yards, 105.5 per year, 21.1 per game, 7.54 average with 120 plus yarder, and he has 9 rushing attempts for 4.5 per year, 32 yards, 16 per year, 3.2 per game, 3.56 average, and 110 plus yarder. Didn't have any snaps this past year overall, obviously because he was on injured reserve, so nothing there. And 336 snaps in 2020. He got a 68.8 overall, 65.1 receiving, and a 77.9 rushing grade. Then we move on to Cody Core. This is a guy that he's been in the league now 6 years. He's kind of a nobody, hasn't really done much of anything. They did give him a reserve futures contract. He's 27, going into his 7th year. He is cheap. These are his measurables and stuff. I figure this is probably just a camp body to see what we can get out of him or whatever. So, it is what it is, but you gotta do something, right? And you gotta have guys certainly and then obviously maybe practice squad guys, although I'm not sure he's eligible, but, probably a nobody, probably won't end up making the team, but, a guy that's in training camp. Round 6, 199 overall, and 2016, 6 years in the league, first few years with the Bengals from 16 to 18, then 19 to 21 with the Giants, and then we just picked him up, obviously, this offseason with a reserve futures contract, so he's with us now. 51 career games, 7 started, 700 snaps, 116.7 per year. Obviously, nobody's really used him much. Couple years with no snaps at all, right? So and then the other years, not particularly great grades. So, like I said, kind of a nobody, hasn't really done anything. We'll see what happens. 64 targets, 10.7 per year, 33 receptions, 5.5 per year, 51.6 completion percentage or catch percentage, 388 yards, 64.7 per year, 7.6 per game, 11.76 average, 1 touchdown, 0.2 touchdowns per year. I would like to see them try and go after at least one wide receiver in free agency. And then, like I said, I'd love to see them get a 3rd round pick. If everything, now, depending on how the board falls, maybe you take him in the 1st or 2nd round, a wide receiver. But, if everything was done how I would love to see it done, again, in an ideal situation. Now, obviously, a lot of things have to fall into place, and the Dolphins actually have to do what I want them to do. You have to rely on other teams to, take certain players in the draft and stuff like that, whatever. But it would be, offensive line in free agency, also get a wide receiver in free agency, and then you get Nakobe Dean round 1, you get one of those 3 running backs in round 2, and then you get a receiver in round 3. And then for the rest of the draft, just fill whatever holes you can to the best of your ability, right? So anyway, no snaps in 2021, no grades. No snaps in 2020, no grade. Only had 64 in 19 with a 57.2 overall and a 60.1 receiving. 310 in 2018, 53.9 overall, 54.4 receiving. 65 snaps in 2017, 49 overall, 49.3 receiving, and 261 snaps in 2016 with a 60.7 overall and a 60.3 receiving. Another nobody who's been in the league for a few years is the next guy up, River Craycraft. He's got a cray name, right? Yeah. Anyway, so River Craycraft, 6th year, going into his 6th year, restricted free agent, 27. He's cheap. Here are the measurables. He didn't really do much at his pro day and whatever, so there you have it. He was undrafted out of 2017, 5 years in the league, 17 to 19 with the Broncos, 20 to 21 with the Niners. Again, we just picked him up on a reserve futures contract this offseason, or, once the season ended over the past few weeks, whatever it is, so he's with us. Got 24 career games he's played in, 1 started, 144 snaps, 28.8 per year. Hasn't done much, obviously, when it comes to that. I think he's maybe played some special teams, but that's really about it. Anyway, receiving, he's got 11 targets, 2.2 per year, 7 receptions, 1.4 per year, 63.6 catch percentage, 85 yards, 17 per year, 3.5 per game, and a 12.14 average. No snaps in 2021, so no grade. 112 in 2020 with a 53.5 overall, 52.1 receiving. He did receive 5 snaps in 2019, but didn't get any grades. 2018, he had 27 snaps with a 68.2 overall, 65.2 receiving, and no snaps in 2017, so nothing to tell you there. This next guy, also given a reserve futures contract, and he could potentially be brought in as special teams returner. By the way, some of these guys like Craycraft and whatever, that could be the case, that maybe they're going to find a home on special teams. But this is his first year in the league. If I'm not mistaken, this is the guy who spent time with the past few years with the Ottawa Red Blacks and the CFL, but this is his first year in the league. He's 26, he's cheap, but he doesn't have any stats prior to this other than I could have put his CFL stats, but this was like, and it's technically a pro league. I mean, I'm not to shit on the Canadian Football League or anything, but like, when I was putting all of this together, I was literally just going, my mentality was, going with what they've done in the league so far. That's why, if they were a rookie this past year, in the case of some players, like, they don't have any stats, they don't really have anything, and he didn't play in the league at all, so there's really nothing on him. and he was just kind of, and that's the thing is from my understanding, he was all right as a receiver, but his standout performances came on special teams in the CFL. So, probably if he does end up on the roster, it'll probably be something there. Anyway, not much to talk about though. There really is, even if I did give you his stats from the CFL, there's still really not much to talk about. So anyway, a guy we drafted comes up next that just doesn't seem to go away. If he was to stick, he'd be a back end of the roster, maybe special teams kind of guy. Although who knows? Who knows, man? I mean, he just doesn't seem to ever leave for very long. So, I don't know. Isaiah Ford's an interesting case. He's going into his 6th year. He's an unrestricted free agent, 26, 920,000 APY. Measurables, combine, pro day, whatever, round 7th pick by us, obviously, 237 overall in 2017, 5 years in the league, all with us. We did trade him to the Patriots, but then they cut him shortly after that, and then we picked him right back up. So 32 games played, 3 started, 753 snaps, 150.6 per year. But he has been pretty reliable, though, and has produced okay when he was in his limited time. So, it is what it is. He's interesting. I mean, I don't hate him at least being around for training camp. 97 targets, 19.4 per year, 63 receptions, 12.6 per year, 64.9 catch percentage, 681 yards, 136.2 per year, 21.3 per game, 10.81 average, 2 touchdowns with 0.4 per touchdowns per year, and 4 20-plus yarders. He's got 1 rushing attempt, 0.2 per year, 11 yards, 2.2 per year, 0.3 per game, and 11 average with 1 10-plus yarder. In 2021, he had 13 games played, 2 started, 142 snaps, 17 targets, 12 receptions, 70.6 catch percentage, 161 yards, 12.4 per game, 13.42 average, 2 touchdowns, and 2 20-plus yarders. As for his grades, he had 142 snaps, and he got a 69.4 overall, 71.3 this past year, 374 snaps the year before in 2020, 61.1 overall, 60.7 receiving, 224 snaps in 2019, 68.9 overall, 67.8 receiving, 64.4 rushing, 13 snaps in 2018, 54.8 overall, 55 receiving, and not much doing with his 2017 0 snaps, so nothing to talk about there. Will Fuller, I was never really high on this signing to begin with. I didn't think he was going to come in and change the whole dynamic of our offense and really open things up. Now, I think that he was going to end up spending the entire year out? No, but I didn't think he was going to really be that impactful. I didn't want to spend that $10 million that we spent on him, huge price tag. And I think part of him coming here did actually have to do with Deshaun Watson, although I'm not saying that was the overriding factor, but I think that was a factor involved. Obviously, I think that they can save this money. Just let him go test free agency, see if somebody else wants him. I don't want to bring him back. I would let him go for sure, but here we are. Will Fuller, 7th year UFA, 27. He's expensive. Here are his measurables and combine scores. He was a first round pick in 2016, 200, I don't know, wait. Was he... There's something obviously wrong with that. He wasn't 217 overall. So either I screwed up on his round, the round that he was taken in, or maybe he was 21st overall or something like that. I don't know. Obviously, I screwed up there. I'm sorry. So I don't actually know because I don't remember off the top of my head. I feel like he was a first round pick. I feel like I got the round right, and I feel like it may just be a typo where I accidentally hit an extra key or something like that. Whatever, it doesn't really matter because like I said, we can get rid of him anyway. But and I'm not going to look it up right now because it wouldn't take super long, but longer than I care to. Anyway, 6 years in the league, Houston, especially because I would just let him go. I wouldn't bring him back. So Houston Texans from 16 to 20. Dolphins from 2021 to present. Although, let him go. Please, please, please. Career stats: 55 games played, 52 started. Because even when he hasn't, similar to Parker, he's had a hard time staying on the field. So anyway, 2,933 snaps, 488.8 per year, 341 targets, 56.8 per year, 213 receptions, 35.5 per year. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not really getting that much production from him on a per year basis, in large part because he can't stay on the field. Anyway, let alone the disaster of this past year where he just cost $10 million for absolutely nothing from him. Anyway, we'll get to his 2021 stats. 62.5 catch percentage in his career, 3,136 yards, 522.7 per year. I mean, has he really even... Like, he's had some good moments and like 1 or 2 good years, but has he really done anything that great? Not really. 57 yards per game, 14.72 average, 24 touchdowns, 4 per year, 24 20-plus yarders, 4 rushing attempts, 0.7 per year, 6 yards, 1 per year, 0.1 per game, and 1.5 average. His 2021 stats: he had 2 games, 65 snaps, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 50 catch percentage, 26 yards, 13 per game, and a 6.5 average, no touchdowns. Obviously, he dropped one that could have been a touchdown. So, and for his grades, on his 65 snaps this year, he got a 61.4 overall, 60 receiving, 577 snaps, I guess you could say really was his best year. Not snap count wise, obviously, because he got more in his rookie season, but graded wise, for sure, because he got an 86.2 overall and an 85 receiving. 564 snaps in 2019, 75.4 overall, 74.3 receiving. But that also was with Deshaun Watson in his last season, where Deshaun Watson had a phenomenal year. So, again, Will Fuller, I was never really big on this signing, but it is what it is. 2018, 375 snaps, 81.2 overall, 81.1 receiving. 523 snaps in 2017, 67.2 overall, 68.6 receiving, and a 50.5 rushing. And 829 snaps in 2016, 63 overall, 63.4 receiving, and a 56.6 rushing. Anyway, we move on. Allen Hurns, another guy I think they can just go ahead and move on from, save the money. And again, I would target one of the notable names in free agency. Go after one of them and then get another receiver in this draft in the top 3 rounds, depending on how the board falls and where you feel comfortable taking a receiver. So, I do think that there are changes coming, and I do think that, again, I think Parker, we're not to him yet. I think Parker's going to end up being here. Obviously, Waddle's the top guy, but I think they'll probably keep Matt Collins. I think they'll like him. And then if you get a wide receiver in free agency and one in the draft, I think you can afford to move him, let him go, save that money, whatever. He was undrafted in 2014. Hasn't really done a whole lot for us either. Obviously didn't play for us at all this year because he was on injured reserve. 8 years in the league, 14 to 17 with the Jags, 18 with the Cowboys, 19 to present with us. 82 career games, 56 started, 3,800 snaps, 475 per year, 416 targets, 52 per year, 241 receptions, 30.125 per year, 57.9 catch percentage, 3,380 yards, 422.5 per year, 41.2 yards per game, 14.02 average, 25 touchdowns, 3.125 per year, and 420 plus yarders. 2 games for us in 2021. I don't know, wait. Actually, I'm sorry. That's my bad. This was all supposed to be deleted because he didn't play for us, and that was actually just what I had copied from this motherfucker. As you can see, it was exactly the same as that, but I meant to delete it because he didn't play anything for us. He was on injured reserve, no snaps, no grades, no snaps in 2020, no grade there. Actually hasn't even played any snaps the past 2 years. I think they can let him go. 522 in 2019, 57 overall, 57 receiving, 451 in 2018, 64.5 overall, 65 receiving, 537 snaps in 2017, 73.8 overall, 72.6 receiving, 637 in 2016, 57.1 overall, 56.9 receiving, 865 snaps in 2015, 78.8 overall, 78.6 receiving, and 788 snaps in his rookie year in 14, 62 overall, 61.4 receiving. I'm just trying to think. So real quick, let's say you have Waddle, Parker, Mac Hollins, Lynn Bowden. You get one receiver in free agency, and then you get at least one in the draft. That's 6 guys. Yeah, okay, and then maybe you'll end up keeping 1 or 2 others, especially when you count in practice squad. I think that's probably pretty solid. I mean, it's not going to be like the best unit in the league, but I think that's a pretty solid unit to go into next year with, especially if you do take a a first to third round wide receiver, and then you get one of those notable free agents, and then keep those guys that I just mentioned. So yeah, I'm just trying to think. I was just trying to think numbers at that point, not necessarily specifically who we have. Anyway, Devontae Parker, real quick on him, I want to say that in the 2015 draft when we picked him, I was super excited. He was actually the player that I wanted in that draft, and he actually happens to be the last active players whose jersey I have. So, I did like him, and when he's been on the field, he has shown some good production, given us some good production, but obviously his big concern is staying on the field, especially for, how much he has to be paid. And if I'm being honest, even though I do, I still like him, and I do think he is going to be around, but I would have been perfectly fine if they never gave him the contract extension, and if they ended up trading him or something, I certainly wouldn't be sad about it. But I kind of get the feeling that he will end up remaining a Miami Dolphin, at least for this upcoming season. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. So he is going into his 8th year, 29. He's got a decent cap hit. These are his measurables and stuff. First round pick, 14th overall in 2015 by us, obviously. 7 years in, all of the time with us. 93 games played, 64 started, 4,459 snaps, 637 per year. Obviously, his big issue is staying on the field. 584 targets, 83.4 per year, 338 receptions, 48.3 per year, 57.9 catch percentage, 4,727 yards. 675.3 per year, 50.8 per game, 13.99 average, 24 touchdowns, 3.4 per year, and 38 20-plus yarders. And that's the thing. If he did just stay on the field, his numbers would probably be pretty good. But they're not because he can't stay on the field, right? Anyway, in 2021, 10 games played, 8 started, 539 snaps, 73 targets, 40 receptions, 54.8 catch percentage, 515 yards, 51.5 per game, 12.88 average, 2 touchdowns, and 7 20-plus yarders. He had, on those 539 snaps, a 72.8 overall, 73.2 grade. Receiving, 726 snaps in 2020, a 76.4 overall, 77 receiving, 905 snaps in 2019, 79.2 overall, 79.8 receiving, 411 in 2018, 69.2 overall, 68.2 receiving. 675 snaps in 2017, 69.5 overall, 68.7 receiving, 735 snaps 2016, 76.1 overall, 76.2 receiving, and 468 snaps his rookie year in 15, 72.9 overall, 71.3 receiving. Now we move on to Jalen Waddle, who is obviously the star of our group, expected to be here. No reason why he wouldn't be. I guess there's always some chance that something could happen, but he should be here. There's really no reason why he shouldn't be. He should be, again, probably our top target, leading receiver, so on and so forth. So, and hopefully we can get some guys to pair with him. And he's a stud, and hopefully is going to be a stud for us for a very long time, right? Obviously going into his 2nd year, he's 23, got a decent current cap hit, obviously because he was a first round pick, 6th overall this past year. Measurables, pro day scores, didn't really do much of anything. Anyway, first round pick, 6th overall in 2021. Obviously 1 year in the league, all with us. 16 games played, 16 started, 903 snaps, 903 per year, 140 targets, 104 receptions, 74.3 catch percentage, 1,015 yards, 63.4 per game, 9.76 average, 6 touchdowns, and 8 20-plus yarders, 2 rushing attempts, 3 yards, 0.2 yards per game, 1.5 average, 1 touchdown. And there you have it. And obviously, everything that he did in 2021 was setting a career best, because it was his first year. So 16 games played, 16 started, 903 snaps, and pretty much all the same stats that I just read for you because they were all this past year. So no need to read it all again. You can see it. He did receive Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team this past year, and he did set a record for most receptions by a rookie with 104. So some early accolades for him. He didn't make it to the Pro Bowl or anything like that, unfortunately, but yeah, some early accolades for our star wide receiver. And his grades on those 903 snaps, 78.3 overall, 78.5 receiving, 62.5 rushing, which is fine because we need him as a receiver. Preston Williams, now an interesting guy with a ton of talent and upside, but again, can't stay on the field. I wouldn't mind if they kept him around for that potential and see what they can do. Maybe they can keep him healthy and whatever. So, like, I'm kind of indifferent, but at the same time, with the way that things have played out, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go either. He's going into his 4th year. He's a restricted free agent, 24. He is cheap, though. Here are measurables, pro day scores. Undrafted in 2019, 3 years in the league, all of it with us. 24 games played, 17 started, 915 snaps, 305 per year, 111 targets, 37 per year. He has shown some flashes, you know, but like early on, but nothing really since then, right? So 56 receptions, 18.7 per year, 50.5 catch percentage, 787 yards, 262.3 per year, 32.8 per game, 14.05 average, 7 touchdowns, 2.3 per year, and 14 20-plus yarders. 1 rushing attempt, 0.3 per year, 7 yards, 2.3 per year, 0.3 per game, 7 average. His 2021 stats, he played in 8 games, which was a career best for him. So, you know, that tells you something. 3 started, 175 snaps, 16 targets, 6 receptions, 37.5 catch percentage. Not good, obviously. 71 yards, 8.9 per game, 11.83 average, 2 20-plus yarders, 1 rushing attempt, 7 yards, 0.9 per game, 7 average. On those 175 snaps, go ahead and just take that out. He had a 59.2 overall, 55.9 receiving, 336 in 2020, a 65.5 overall, 64.7 receiving, and his best year definitely was in 2019, 404 overall snaps, 67.7 overall, and a 69.4 receiving. Albert Wilson is another guy that I could see potentially sticking around because I could see them being like, ooh, you know, he's really fast and let's see what we can get out of him. But and honestly, I did like when they brought him over. He was a signing from the Kansas City Chiefs that I liked because I thought he would fit well into what Adam Gase wanted to do at the time. And then he obviously, you know, opted out of 2020. He hasn't really done anything for us since, right? I wouldn't mind if they let him go, save that money, but he is a guy that I could see them keeping around. Going into his 8th year as an unrestricted free agent, 29, $3 million current APY, measurables, combine, pro day, undrafted in 14, 8 years in, started with the Chiefs, obviously, 14 to 17, 18 to present with us, 89 games played, 38 started, 2,906 snaps, 363.25 per year, 335 targets, 41.7 per year, 218 receptions, 27.25 per year, 65.3 catch percentage, 2,499 yards, 312.375 per year, 28.1 yards per game, 11.46 average, 12 touchdowns, 1.5 per year, and 520-plus yarders. And by the way, he's supposed to be a yards after the catch kind of guy, although more recently in particular, you didn't see this as much, but he seems to be going sideline to sideline way more than he should, and it actually is problematic at times. So, you know, also something to keep in mind. But maybe this coaching staff will coach him out of it if they decide to keep him, right? And tell him to just keep going north and south. Anyway, he's got 27 rushing attempts, 3.375 per year, 160 yards, 20 per year, 1.8 per game, 5.93 average, 1 touchdown, which is 0.125 per year, and 2 10-plus yarders. He's got had 14 games played in 2021, 5 started, 361 snaps, 39 targets, 25 receptions, 64.1 catch percentage, 213 yards, 15.2 per game, 8.52 average, 120 plus yarder with 4 rushing attempts, 17 yards, 1.2 per game, 4.25 average, and 1 10 plus yarder. As far as his grades go, 361 snaps in 2021, 59.3 overall, 57.1 receiving, and a 66.8 rushing. Obviously, again, he opted out of 2020, so nothing to talk about there. 439 snaps in 2019, 62.3 overall, 63.6 receiving, and a 60.9 rushing. 232 snaps in 2018, 82.5 overall, 82.7 receiving, 50.4 rushing. 536 snaps in 2017, 75.5 overall, 74.9 receiving, a 47.2 rushing. 467 snaps in 2016, 54.1 overall, 54.6 receiving, 68.8 rushing. 655 snaps in 2015, 63.9 overall, 63.4 receiving, 51.7 rushing. And in 2014, his rookie year, he had 216 snaps, 68.4 overall, 69.4 receiving. And so, there you have it. That is my wrap-up of the current Dolphins wide receivers and who we have on the roster as it stands right now. Like I said, the way I would like to do it is, again, I'd be fine with it being like, Jalen Waddle, Matt Collins, Devontae Parker, and Lynn Bowden Jr., if you want to say something along those lines, is like the baseline, with maybe if they decide to keep a Preston Williams and Albert Wilson or an Albert Wilson around, something like that. Let those other guys go, especially Will Fuller, right? But again, I wouldn't hate if they let Wilson, Preston Williams, or even Parker go, or trade Parker. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I would love to see them, and we'll get to that video tomorrow, but I would love to see them get at least one free agent wide receiver that is available, potentially available, and then I would like to see them get a wide receiver in the top 3 rounds, depending on how the board falls, but for sure in the top 3 rounds. And then maybe you take one later on as well. So that's how I would like to see it, and that is a wrap-up of who we currently have. Tomorrow will be the video for the free agent targets, potential targets, so check that out. Before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like, they got it, and they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute the terrible officiating. So look for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.
Miami wins it.